Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Sarah Simpson with SMS PLS and Enraged to Engaged. If you've already watched the first video for this activity, it shows you exactly how to set up, cut out, and prepare the activity for use. Next, I'm going to talk you through what you do with the activity. So I would lead in with some discussion questions, and these are in the published lesson plan if you've accessed that. I'd ask my students things like, well, when are some times when someone did something wrong and you wished they had apologized? And I would lead a discussion that way. If you have a group that tends to get riled up thinking about past wrongs, a better way to ask that question might be, let's talk about times when a person should apologize. What are some things a person should apologize for? If you have a group that you want to engage in self-reflection, you could ask them the question, when are some times when you needed to apologize to somebody else? And describe how that went. So any of those types of questions are going to be good. Another place that I would have discussion is to say to the kids, how do you feel when someone does something wrong and does not apologize? And they're probably going to say they feel pretty rotten. Then you're going to ask them, how do you feel if somebody does something wrong and they do apologize to you? And so that's an important piece because we've got to drive home the idea that apologizing is something that people should be doing, that it maintains relationships, and it's a natural part of life and those relationships. Right, you've got your game board set up. And this isn't really a competitive game activity. Some of the scenarios, when you get to the part where they talk about what the person did that they're apologizing for, I made sure some of them were a little bit silly because this is an activity that can get kind of dark and miserable and mopey pretty quickly. If you have a group where you need specific issues that maybe are a little more serious, that's what these blank game cards are for. You can write your own. If you want to write some more silly scenarios to keep the mood light, that's what these blank cards are for. You can write some of your own. So I wanted to make sure I included that to let you customize this for your group. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. It doesn't matter what order the cards in each stack are in. They can be random because part of this activity is talking about, does the apology I've created actually make sense? So let's go ahead and take a card from the red deck, a card from the yellow deck, and we're going to place them on the activity board, a card from this deck, a card from the green, and a card from the blue, and now I'm going to read it, and I'm going to see if this is a good apology. I feel pretty bad about what happened. Can we talk? I said I'd be there, and I wasn't. I was spacing out when you were trying to tell me about your crummy day. I'm sorry about what I did. Even though I messed up, I really do care about you. I hope you can forgive me someday. So one of the things I would do is, before I had gotten to this step, I would probably talk through the 5 different parts of an apology that are on here. So ask for the person's attention and see if it's a good time to talk. And you could also talk about if it's not a good time, what should you do? Some of our kids aren't going to read the cue that things aren't a good time, and the person's going to be like walking away and they're still going to try to apologize, and it's going to escalate conflict. You would want to talk about acknowledging what you did to upset the other person without excuses. You can talk through getting specific about what you did. You can talk through the part about actually saying I'm sorry, and then you can also talk through understanding that the person may need more time to forgive you. So what I would do is if I was doing this with a group or an individual, I'd say, well, gosh, does this apology make sense? And they'd probably say, yeah, it's not too bad, but there's some parts that don't quite go together. I said I'd be there and I wasn't. I was spacing out when you were trying to tell me about your crummy day. So for more advanced kids, they might hear that these two things don't go great together. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not like perfectly fitting either. So you can have a discussion about why that doesn't fit. You're really talking kind of about 2 separate things. For kids that are less advanced, just learning the sequence is what's going to be helpful. And you could probably write more simplified scenarios for a lower group as well. Okay, so what I would do is I would go ahead and I would move each of these to the bottom of the deck. So bottom of the green deck for the green, bottom of the yellow deck for the yellow one I just used, bottom of the orange one, bottom of the red, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to the next scenario. So I'm going to take the top red card and place it over the red, orange over the orange, yellow over the yellow, green over the green, and blue over the blue. And now I'm going to read my apology and I'm going to see if I think it makes sense, just like I did last time. So for our more basic skills kids, just reading through it with them and pointing out the different parts is probably going to be what you want to get out of this activity. For your more sophisticated, higher level kids, you really want to talk about, do all the parts of the scenario fit together? Is the apology too extreme for what the person did? Yes or no? Should they have been more serious? Those are all points of discussion. So let's look at this apology. I'm really glad I ran into you today. Do you have time to talk about something? And, I'd make sure I was talking about how if it's not a good time, I'm not going to pursue the person and try to apologize. I lied to you. Okay, that's pretty dark. I told you I'd pick up your clown suit at the dry cleaners, and I didn't do it. Please forgive me for what happened. Thanks for listening and letting me apologize. So your basic kids are going to think this scenario is okay, and it's mostly fine. Your more advanced kids are probably going to hear that the orange and yellow categories don't quite go together. I lied to you. I told you I'd pick up your clown suit at the dry cleaners and I didn't do it. And they'll laugh about the clown suit. Saying you lied to the person is probably a little extreme for forgetting something. And so that's a place to have a talk about nuance in apology, that this is probably too extreme for what you actually did. For your more basic kids, just going through the steps is probably adequate. So once again, I'm going to return each of these to the bottom of the pile. And I can go through again, and I can repeat that till I start to repeat scenarios. Once I'm seeing repeat scenarios, another thing I can do with my more sophisticated kids is I can lay all of these out and have them make like all of the perfect apologies. So like I might lay out all my red cards, all my yellows, all my oranges. I think I keep saying yellow when I'm touching orange. My apologies. Let me just go ahead and lay these out. It does take a moment to do. This is another variation on this that you can do if you don't want to do the game board method. So this is like if you want to carry this lesson into an additional day or come back and revisit it and use the same materials, this is pretty effective. All right, takes me a moment to lay them all out. And this is one where if you are on a call like on Zoom or on WebEx, which is what my district uses, if I can get this where I can see all the scenarios, I can do this as a whole group activity. We can all see every card. So, I'd say, let's look at this one first. I'm really glad I ran into you today. Do you have time to talk about something? Well, that could work for just about anything. Most of these on the red column are going to work for almost anything. I'm going to put, I stirred up a bunch of drama for my orange card. Okay, let's see which one of these has something to do about drama. I threw up in your purse after the choir concert. Well, I don't know that that's necessarily stirring up drama. I mean, it's kind of gross, but that's not like causing problems within your peer group. So I don't think this is my best choice. I posted that unflattering photo of you eating the taco eating contest on Instagram. That could stir up some drama. I could see people like mocking the friend or something. I'm gonna hold this one in my hand for now. Let's see if there's others that I think are better though. I talked about that time you pooped your pants at the track meet in the 7th grade. Yeah, that could stir up drama. I blew off our plans to go to the Gem and Mineral show so I could go to the Star Trek convention with the guys from Robotics Club. Now, I don't know that would stir up drama. It was rude, but it wouldn't cause social repercussions, so I'm going to not put that one in my hand. I was spacing out when you were trying to tell me about your crummy day. Well, I don't think that makes social drama with other people. That's not a good choice. I told you I'd pick up your clown suit at the dry cleaners and I didn't do it. Well, that doesn't stir up drama either. So I'm left with these two scenarios. And so the discussion you can have is which one of these would cause more social drama? I think the unflattering photo. Okay, so now I've got, I'm really glad I ran into you today. Do you have time to talk about something? I stirred up a bunch of drama. I posted that unflattering photo of you from the taco eating contest on Instagram. And so now I've got to pick something from the green column. Since I actually probably really embarrassed the person, I want one that's a fairly extreme option. I apologize, what I did was wrong. That might be a really good choice. I'm so sorry, I wish I could take it back. That one would work. I wanted to apologize to you. I still think these two are better, so I'm going to leave that one. I was wrong and I'm sorry. That could work, but I still think these are better. I'm sorry about what I did. That one's good. And please forgive me for what happened. Well, what happened implies that it was accidental and you did this on purpose. So looking at my scenarios, I kind of like, I'm so sorry, I wish I could take it back. I kind of like that one because you probably wish you could un-Instagram that picture. Now, all of these at the end are probably going to work. Now, I would talk about how mad is the person when I go on to this last column in this variation. Well, okay, they're probably pretty mad. So I'm looking for one that's fairly intense. I value our relationship and I hope I can earn your trust again. Yeah, I think that fits this scenario because you've broken their trust by showing an unflattering picture. I understand if you're still angry and I hope we can still be friends later. Yeah, I'll bet they're pretty mad. That one could work. I don't expect you to forgive me right now, but I still wanted to say I was sorry. This is pretty good, but I still think both of these are better, so I'm not going to include that one. Whenever you feel ready to talk to me again, I'll be here. That could also be true, but I still like the other two better. Even though I messed up, I really do care about you. I hope you can forgive me someday. That one's pretty good. And thanks for listening and letting me apologize. Well, that's like more minor. So out of all of these, I kind of like the one about like your trust because it's like you broke the friend's trust when you published that picture without asking them. That was so embarrassing. So now I've crafted a really kind of custom apology where all the parts fit together and the level of intensity is correct. Once again, this is a variation for your higher functioning kids. Let me show you something you may want to do for your lower kids who struggle a little bit more. Now you could certainly write an extension pack of cards that are much more basic. But what you can do is if a handout like this is confusing for your lower kids, sometimes they do better if something is presented in a linear way. You could cut this out and make it linear. So I'm just going to cut off the excess here and trim around and I'll show you what I mean. Cut all this extra stuff off that I don't need. And you know, at some point I really might write an expansion pack for our lower functioning kids. I'm kind of thinking about kids who are mid to higher functioning with ID. So, you know, those of you with the more significantly functional kids, I'm hearing you. You can go ahead and set the board out like this so that there's no having to do an I return with the second line. I just take a little piece of tape, which I just don't happen to have any handy, but I can tape this together and we can go through the activity that way. So hopefully that gives you some guidance about how to use this activity a couple of different ways once it's set up. All right, happy social skilling.